Hello there. This is the intro to RStudio, which is the software we'll be using. All right, R is free, open source, and web-based statistical software. It's widely used in academia and industry. It's coding-based software, but in this class we're using RStudio, which just really requires, it requires a little coding, but it's really just writing scripts, which are like little one-line commands. It's not hard to use. I don't think any of you will have trouble with it. Has lots of helpful suggestions and hints built right in. It's really nice. It's really user-friendly. So what you're going to do in this prep is hopefully download RStudio on your own machine, okay? So it won't be a problem. I've not had it be a problem for anyone's machine in the last 10 years that I've used it at Doane. You'll see what you should do if you don't. You can go ahead a little bit if you want to see what you're going to do if you're not willing to load this on your machine, or if you are unable to load it on a machine, or maybe you have a machine that maybe you don't have a laptop. All right, if you don't, you should be contacting me right away. If you do, pause the video and download RStudio. All right, so first thing you're going to do is install R. And after that, you're going to install RStudio. So there's two things to install. RStudio is just an interface for R. So pause the video and read these instructions. All right, so this page is about how to download RStudio for Windows, and the next page is about how to do it on Mac. All right, so pause here if you have Windows, and go get RStudio. Pause here if you have a Mac, and go get RStudio. In your prep work, make a note that you've downloaded this, all right? By the way, this program is really, really powerful. It's used by really a lot of the top data science companies in the nation, all right? And it's like a great thing to write on a resume that you know how to use RStudio. So, right, you can see in the middle, I say, if you have trouble downloading it, let me know right away. If you don't have a machine to download it on, let me know this too. I can probably haul over a bunch of computers if I need to. I can probably get the help desk to get you a computer if you are unable, okay? Even if you're not able to get the program, you have to do the prep work, so keep going. All right, so more on how to proceed to do the homework. Sorry, last year this was homework, now it's just prep work. Open RStudio, the workspace will look something like this. This little panel is where you're going to do your calculations. Over here, you'll see a panel for getting data. Over here is sort of a help panel, and it will show you how to, also helps you to access files. We'll practice this in class also. So bring computers to class from now on. Here are the tips on how to do this prep work more easily. You might consider doing a split screen, all right, because then you can have the instructions on the screen. I use two screens, but you could have this showing on half of your screen and have your RStudio right next to it. It would look like this. All right, so like you could have this file, this slide showing over here, and then have the split screen RStudio running right next to it, so you can just kind of follow along. Otherwise, it's not that hard to flip back and forth, but a lot easier to do on a split screen. All right, so here's how we're going to get started. We're going to do something really simple on the prep work, and then when we get to class, we'll do more complicated, like downloading data and things like that. But it's a computation and data manipulation software too. You can do lots of things in it. You'll see that RStudio, all the commands you're going to write will be typed next to this little blue greater than prompt. A little hashtag statement simply describes what that line does, and you can add that to your own code for reference. And you can leave it without the hashtag comments out to whatever you want to do, all right? So what you're going to do is just type this into RStudio in that main command pane, and then hit enter after each one. So you're going to see a blue thing. start typing and it'll turn blue and type x equals C224569. All right. This creates a list of a vector of values in a sample of 6 observations, and we're just calling it x. So maybe it's like the number of TVs in somebody's house or whatever, okay? So C, like you could say it's like a collection or something if you want to remember that. If you type x after that, that'll list all values. So go ahead and do that. And then if you do y equals 3 divided by x squared, that creates a new vector of y, which is a function of x. So you can do all kinds of things like that. All right, and then if you type y, it'll show you that vector of 3 over x squared values. All right, so you can do, I don't know why I made that up. That's a weird thing to ask, but it's like you can do lots of different calculations and get vectors of calculations. All right, if you type in these commands, hitting enter after each one. So mu, I'm naming mu equal to the mean of x. So I'm assigning the name mu to the mean of the x sample. And then if you type the letter, the code mu, it'll show the values, that value of mu, right? The mean for that data set. Deviation, DEV, I'm assigning to x minus mu. That's the deviations. We talked about things like that earlier when we were doing probability distributions, right? It's the distance between the x values and the mean, right? So then if you type deviations, it'll show you all the different deviations, how far all those things were from the mean. So definitely start a list of the main R commands somewhere for quick reference. You might want to do it somewhere separate from your main class notes, all right? So that way you'll have it as reference instead of being buried in your class notes. What if you wanted to calculate the standard deviation for a sample X? All right, sample standard deviation is different than population standard deviation, all right? Like, what if I wanted to do that and I didn't know the script, the code to type? I'm just trying to show you how people use software like this. What you do is you Google it. You could Google it. You could just guess a few things, and RStudio will make suggestions, but Google is how I do everything. In fact, a lot of things in RStudio, I don't have memorized. I just kind of do a lot of Googling. All right. I also have a reference list for things that I do often. Okay, so I've saved like a lot of things. I probably have like 4 pages of reference list that I just made for myself when I use this, which I use it all often. But, there's going to be some time where you're trying to do something and you'll have to look it up, okay? The other thing you could do, you could enter question mark, standard deviation in the command line, right next to the blue greater than sign, and suggestions will pop up in the bottom right help pane in RStudio. But sometimes Google is easier than reading through all of RStudio's suggestions. So anyway, I usually Google, just saying. So here's a prep work problem for you to do. If you don't yet have RStudio, then you still have to explain what you would do, how you would do the following if you did. If you are using RStudio, make sure you write down what you did and how you got it. Okay, so figure out the script for calculating the sample standard deviation in RStudio, and then calculate the standard deviation for X. It should be a sample standard deviation and not a population standard deviation. 1B, calculate the mean and standard deviation for Y. Figure out how to calculate the median and find the median for X and Y. And try the command summary X and then enter, and what is the result? So you could Google all this if you don't have RStudio yet. Second prep problem in RStudio, right? If you don't have it, use Google Sheets to find the quartiles, and you can make these graphs by hand, all right? So try the command box plot X and see, do there appear to be any outliers in the sample? If so, what values? Okay, so the outliers will be things that extend past the whiskers. You guys read that in your prep work for 1.3, okay? And then try command box plot Y. Do there appear to be any outliers in this sample? If so, what values? That's all we're doing. Yep, that's all we're doing. All right, so do the prep work, and I'll see you when I see you.